Hey guys, how are we? Welcome back to the Boxing Deep Dive channel. And it is time for another episode of What's Your Verdict? This is where I go back and revisit a controversial or contentious fight from the past, show some highlights of each round. I'll score the fight after each round. At the end, of course, get to my unofficial scorecard, and we'll see how that measures up with all you fans out there. So in this particular episode, you can see there we've got the Anthony Mundine, Danny Green, number 2. This fight took place on February 3rd, 2017 at the Adelaide Oval in South Australia. The referee was Frank Garza. Now, this fight was obviously with number 2, was a rematch of the fight from 2006. And to this day, the biggest fight in Australian boxing history. It was the perfect storm of Danny Green, the All-Australian hero, and Anthony Mundine, probably the anti-hero, if that's what you want to call it. He was the villain. But as I said, it was the perfect storm of all the personalities and the followings and just the timing of the whole thing just worked out perfectly for these two to lock horns in 2006. I don't know why it took 11 years to get them back in the ring, but I suppose these two guys being two of the biggest personalities this country has ever seen. Probably a lot of posturing, a lot of negotiations, a lot of ego, who knows. But as I said, it took 11 years to get them back in the ring. Now, in this fight, Mundine brought in a record of 47-7, 27 KOs. Danny Green, 35-5 with 28 knockouts. Now, a couple of interesting things about this fight. Probably the first one was the age of both fighters. Of course, as I said, it took 11 years to get them in the ring. I'm pretty sure Anthony Mundine had just turned 40 or around the mark, where Danny Green was 43 going on 44. So both guys in their 40s. But I suppose it cancels it out when they're both around the same age, doesn't it? But one thing you will see if you've seen the first fight, just the difference in the punches, the timing, and everything else, and of course the body shapes of both guys from that first fight. But the main thing of this fight, speaking of the body sizes, was the weight. Now, the agreed catch weight of this fight was 83 kilograms. Now, Danny Green came just in under that. He was 82.95 kilos or 182.5 pounds. Anthony Mundine was 79.8 kilograms or 175.5 pounds. Now, you can see there it's only around 3 kilos. What's the big deal? Well, you've just got to look at to the immediate fights before this one for both fighters. Now, Anthony Mundine, for the fight preceding this one, weighed 153 pounds, which is 69.5 kilograms. Danny Green weighed 190 pounds or 86.5 kilograms. So the 17 kilo difference there in the previous fights. So to put it in perspective, Anthony Mundine put on 22 pounds to get to this weight, so 10 kilograms. Danny Green had to come down 23 pounds or 10.5 kilograms. So we don't know what these guys obviously walk around in between fights, but I'm just going by what the weights they both fought at. And just an amazing discrepancy. But at the end of the day, lots of money involved, lots of attention, and all the rest of the plaudits to go with it. So you can't begrudge both guys wanting to get in there and get it on. You can just imagine the morning of the weigh-in, Anthony Mundine probably eating bacon and eggs and whatever else he could think of and drinking water to get up in weight. And Danny Green probably would have been in a sauna. So end of the day, as I said, that's what these guys do. They're professional fighters. The catch weight was 83. And end of the day, there was 3 kilos difference. And we have a fight. Let's get into round number 1. We've just done the introductions here. Let's get into round number 1 as we go. One thing you'll see here quite quickly is that Danny Green comes out hard. The bigger man, the stronger man. Obviously, the pride would have been hurting from the first fight. He's been waiting that long to get back into the ring, so he comes out hard, pushes Anthony Mundine back there. You can see there trying to really bully Anthony Mundine, club him with some big shots and really assert his dominance. But there was a massive controversy in the first round. It's about to come up here, coming out of the clinch. You will see it, and bang, Anthony Mundine lands the big left hook on an unsuspecting Danny Green, and the fight quite easily could have been over right there. Now, we are 1 minute into the fight. Danny Green, by all accounts there, is out on his feet. Now, lots of things going on between doctors and referees and cornermen going off. At the end of the day, he was allowed to continue, which I find surprising in this day and age. Of course, it was 6 years ago. Anthony Mundine had the 1 point deducted for the punch and pretty much handed the round to Danny Green 10 points to 8. See there, I think Danny Green won the round anyway. Anthony Mundine did try and pick up the pace towards the end of the round to try and maybe get a little bit of momentum back off Danny Green, but having lost that point in the first minute of the fight, it was always going to probably lose that round. But just an amazing circumstance in that first round that Danny Green almost knocked out in the very first minute of the fight. And I was actually at this fight at the Adelaide Oval, and I thought it was all over right there. And I thought, geez, this is just big time boxing for you. Just these things happen. And who would have guessed it'd be 1 minute into the fight? But you can see there, I've got Danny Green. Thought he won the round anyway. I thought Anthony Mundine was pretty much trying to find his range. He would have been conscious of the fact that Danny Green would have been coming out, going after him, and being the much bigger man. I thought he did the right thing by just boxing and moving, clinching in close, and trying to take a little bit of the steam and the fire out of Danny Green. But then with the point deduction, becomes a 10-8 round for Danny Green. So after the first round, 10 points to 8 to Danny Green. Into round number 3, it was a pretty scrappy round, a lot of holding and hitting. And I suppose it's to do with their age. A lot of both fighters struggling to find the timing, range, distance, all these sorts of things. And it's really scrappy. You can see in there a lot of holding and hitting, a lot of wrestling. I thought Green was more active, really trying to use that jab to keep Anthony Mundine unsettled, with Anthony Mundine just waiting for the ideal to try and counterpunch. But I just thought, in my opinion, he just waited a little bit too long. You can see there he's starting to pick up the pace a little bit, but Danny Green still with a lot in the tank. And obviously the bigger and stronger man. I thought just with his jab, and you can see there his clubbing punches, that I thought he did enough to win the round with Anthony Mundine again, and quite rightly so. Just trying to time his run, take the sting out of the fight, and then be able to pick up the pace after Danny Green maybe winds down a little bit. But I've given Danny Green that second round, which makes the scoreline 20-17 after round number 2. Let's go into round number 3. Now, Green continues to stalk and use that jab, trying again to keep pushing Anthony Mundine back. And I think that you could see the strategy being that he really wanted to get some rounds on the board and really try and unsettle Anthony Mundine. Because in the first fight, Anthony Mundine pretty much just led Danny Green on a merry dance. He went from left to right, and Danny really struggled to cut him off. And now, obviously, with the age difference and the time that had passed in between fights, Anthony Mundine had slowed down a lot, so probably made it a little bit easier for Danny. But I thought Danny really putting that left jab in there. But I just thought Anthony Mundine just started to find his timing, found his range as the round went on, and just had a little bit more success with his punches. And I suppose the concerning thing, if you're a Danny Green fan at this stage, was just that he looked like, you can see there backing up, that he just looked like he'd run out, well, not run out of steam, but had lost a bit of that early momentum. And Anthony Mundine had really picked it up, and I thought did enough to just to win that third round. But really, anyone's fight up to this point, you can see there, I've given the round to Anthony Mundine 10-9, but Danny Green still in front, 29-27. So, starting to peg those points back, but still 2 rounds to 1 for Danny Green, in my opinion. Round number 4, I thought Anthony Mundine turned the tables in this round as far as coming forward. I think he's probably had the instructions from the corner. Maybe this was the strategy all the time going in, is that Danny Green would probably fade pretty quick, and to start, give him the first 3 rounds, or maybe just play it safe for 3 rounds, and then really start to pick up the pace in the third round to start to make Danny Green work. Because in the first 3 rounds, Danny Green pretty much dictated the pace. And Anthony Mundine starting to come forward now. But surprisingly, I will say, I thought Danny Green handled it really well. I thought, you can see there the heavy jab continuing to keep Anthony Mundine unsettled. Not a lot of meaningful punches landed by either. And you can probably gather that by the lack of time. You see a good uppercut landed there by Green. I thought Mundine landed some good jabs, and maybe a couple of other punches. But I just thought Danny Green, apart from you can see him lost his balance there, but I just thought Mundine was busier, but didn't really land many punches. And I thought even though Danny was probably struggling with the pace at this stage in round 4, I thought he did enough just to still win the round. Now, it was a really, really close round. Probably could have gone either way. But I've given it to Danny Green in a really, really close round because, as I said, even though Anthony Mundine had a better round, I just don't think he was doing enough. And surprisingly, he started the round well, but then just allowed Danny just to come back. And I thought Danny finished the round a little bit stronger and won that 4th round. So after 4 rounds, Anthony Mundine with some work to do. You can see there 39-36 in favour of Danny Green. All right, let's get into round number 5. Both fighters, I thought, finally had started to find some timing. And again, I'll say it, you can't begrudge these guys being 40 and above for struggling to find the range. But I thought for the first time, both we looked like we had a fight. And rather than the first 4 rounds being a lot of wrestling, clubbing each other, this was the first time I thought we saw glimpses of both fighters from the youth. I thought both landed really good jabs, but I thought Danny Green's was more effective, probably with his follow-ups. You see there Anthony Mundine starting to come forward a lot more. Another really, really close round to score, I will say as well. But I thought even though, again, probably like round 4, even though Anthony Mundine trying to pick up the pace, trying to make Danny Green get out of his comfort zone and start to assert his authority on the fight. I still thought Danny Green landed the better punches, especially that hard jab. And you can see there, Anthony, he's just missing. And I just thought, look, it's probably one of those rounds where if someone had given it to Mundine, I wouldn't argue. But for me, I've given another round to Danny Green. So after 5 rounds, I've got it 49-45 or 4 rounds to 1 for Danny Green. And that's what I was talking about earlier, a tale of 2 fights. So so we'll see how the rest of the fight goes here. But after 5, 49-45 for Danny Green. Now into round number 6. Another extremely hard round to score, like the first 5 had been. Anthony Mundine coming forward again, surprisingly. Green backing up, but neither fighter really effective. Both just missing by a centimetre or 2. Both just falling short, just missing. And really, again, like I've said in most of the rounds, struggling with the timing and range. Danny, you can see there, continuing to persist with that jab, which is always a great weapon, no matter what age or whatever or stage of your career you're at. A good jab will always keep you in good stead. And as I said, Green landed some good jabs. Slightly busier, I thought, as well. Anthony Mundine, again, really trying to up the pace, but I just think he's having all sorts of trouble landing on Danny Green. Almost landed another big hook there that would have probably got him disqualified. But look, again, another really hard round to score. I wouldn't begrudge anyone scoring it one way or the other. But I just thought, again, even though he noticeably was struggling at this stage with a little bit of fatigue, I just thought that Danny Green, again, did enough to win the round. So after 6 rounds, I've got it 59-54. And I can't remember what the official scorecards had it looking back, but very, very similar to this. I remember actually being at the fight thinking that Anthony Mundine had won a lot of the early rounds and Danny Green a lot of the latter rounds. But I think 59-54, you might have it around either way, but I think you would still have Danny Green in front. Now, this is probably where things start to turn, around number 7. And I thought Anthony Mundine probably knew at this stage he was behind on points, came out really fast. Noticeably picks up the pace and goes after a visibly tiring Danny Green. And Anthony Mundine started to land the right hand. Danny was really struggling to go with him pace-wise. You can see there. And it does land a good right hand there. But was really struggling with the pace. And you can see here, this is probably a major turning point of the fight. Danny Green penalised a point for using the elbow, which takes away the point that takes away the advantage of the point of Anthony Mundine being deducted in the first round. And I remember thinking, and even watching the replay at this point, Danny Green looks in a lot of trouble. Not trouble as far as being hurt by punches, but just struggling with now the pace of the fight. And it was probably fortunate that Anthony Mundine's timing wasn't great either, because he was struggling to really take advantage of it. But I just thought his work rate, pushing Danny Green back with volume and work rate, and I thought it was easily an Anthony Mundine round. You can see there with the point taken off that it was a 10-8 round to Anthony Mundine, which brings it back to a 67-64 scorecard after 7 rounds. All right, so we've got 3 rounds to go, 3 points the difference. Let's go to round number 8. And I thought this time it was Danny Green's turn to start quickly. You can see he comes out really fast there. Backs Mundine up, trying to throw bombs. I think he was, at this stage, fighting on more heart than stamina, I think, at this stage. Mundine, I thought, picked it up as the round went on. And as more and more as the round went on, Danny Green struggled even more, looked, as I said, notably tired. And Mundine started to pepper him with all sorts of punches. You can see there, Danny starting to try and hold on. Really, really slow with his counter punches. And I thought it was a really, really dominant round for Anthony Mundine, who surprisingly looks like he's now looks a little bit quicker than what he did in the early rounds, if that makes sense. Maybe now he's got his tail up. You can see that Danny Green's really starting to tire and struggle now, and he thinks now is the time to put my stamp on this fight. So this one wasn't really hard to score at all. I've given it a dominant round to Anthony Mundine, 10-9. And after 8 rounds, it is 76-74, or 6 round. 5 rounds each. What is it? 4 rounds each. Sorry. So a very, very even fight after round number 9. Round number 8. Let's get into round number 9. Speaking of that, and I thought this was a big round for Anthony Mundine. I thought more than any other round in the fight, Danny Green really struggling at this stage. And pretty much it was just a one-sided, I won't call it a beatdown, but just a really dominant round by Anthony Mundine. He just tended to pepper him right around the ring. And Danny looked out on his feet at different stages. You can see there Anthony Mundine doing his absolute best to try and finish it. And credit to Danny Green there, coming back, showing a lot of heart. Remember, this was his, grand final, if you want to call it that. This was the last fight of his career. He'd been chasing his fight for so long. This fight, that loss had haunted him 11 years ago. And I think at this stage it was pure heart having him hang in there. But Choc Mundine, he can sense that Danny's gone and he's picking up the pace. You can see that he was doing everything he can, bowling in punches left and right. Just can't seem to land that big punch that he needs to rock Danny Green and get him out of there. And I think this is where the size difference comes into it as well. It would have taken almost a sledgehammer from Anthony Mundine to get Danny out of there because of the size difference. But just probably the most dominant round of the fight was this one. And I thought Anthony Mundine won this round comprehensively to close the difference to 1 point going into the 10th and final round. You can see there 85-84 in the favour of Danny Green with 1 round to go. So both boys touch gloves. There's a little bit of a hug before that one. And who can win the round? Can Danny Green hang on, or can Anthony Mundine close the show? I thought both fighters really trying to finish strong and exhausted Danny Green, just trying to pump that jab, just doing something, anything he can to keep Anthony Mundine off. I'm sure his corner would have been telling him that he was in front at this stage, and he's just trying to keep Anthony Mundine off. He didn't have anything really left to put Anthony Mundine under any duress. And Anthony Mundine knew this. And I just thought he probably could have picked it up a little bit more. And I don't think he probably picked up the pace enough. You can see there Danny Green with the bloodied nose. I thought it was an even first 2 minutes of the round, but I thought the last minute Anthony Mundine really started to come on. And I thought he finished the round really strong. And I gave him the last round. You can see there Danny Green thought he'd done more than enough to win. And that is the end of the 10th round. But I gave the round to Anthony Mundine, which makes it on my scorecard a draw. So 94-94. So, look, it's a really, really hard one because a lot of those early rounds could have gone either way. But I thought the last 3 or 4 rounds, Anthony Mundine won comprehensively. So I'm certainly not going to argue with anyone that had Anthony Mundine ahead. But I just thought in those first few rounds that Danny Green just was the more dominant fighter. Anthony Mundine really struggled to land any significant punches. He allowed himself to be pushed back by Danny Green. And when the judges are looking for something to award the round, sometimes it just comes to who's pushing the fight. And I just thought for, the first 6 rounds, and Danny Green won 5 of the first 6 just by being a little bit more dominant than Anthony Mundine. But those last 4 rounds, I thought it was Anthony Mundine all the way. But at the end of the day, with the point taken off both fighters, I had a 94-94 draw. Now, onto the official scorecards. And these left me staggered, I can tell you. Tom Ferruto scored at 94-94, so he had it the same as me, a draw, 5 rounds each, and a point taken off both fighters. But Hubert Min had it 98-90 for Danny Green. That's 9 rounds to 1, if you will, for Danny Green. I just cannot get my head around that one. And the other one was Steve Morrow, who had it 96-94 also for Danny Green. Look, I'm not going to argue with that one, but Hubert Min, I'm not quite sure how many fights he judged after this one, but he got that one wrong. 9 rounds to 1 for Danny Green. Look, whether you thought he won or he didn't, and being a draw, you could probably have it either way. Well, I did, as did Tom Ferruto. And Steve Morrow, as I said, 96-94, 6 rounds to 4. But whatever, Hubert Min, mate, you need to wake up to yourself. The other thing you can do on BoxRec, if you get on there and you can score this fight, and I went to the fans' scorecard. So they put in who they think won each round. You can just pick who's 10-8, 10-9, or whatever it might be, write down, and it records it on BoxRec for an average score. Now, the fans had it 95-93 for Anthony Mundine. So they thought that Anthony Chock Mundine won the fight. So I don't know how Hubert Min gets it 9 rounds to 1 when you've got the fans saying, 6 rounds to 4 for Anthony Mundine. The interesting one is the Steve Morrow one. Now, he had it 6 rounds to 4, but both fighters had a point taken off. So the only thing I can think of there is that he had it 4 rounds apiece, and then had the point taken off both. I think that's how it sort of works out. Either way, but he only his scorecard was a little bit hard to read as well. But so there it is. I had it 94-94. The fans had it 95-93. The 3 judges had it, or 2 out of 3 had it for Danny Green, and 1 a draw. So how did you have it? I'm really interested to hear your feedback. Make sure you put it in the link, or the comment section down below, and let me know, did I get it right or wrong, and how did you score it? All right, until next time, hope you enjoyed this episode of What's Your Verdict, and we'll catch you next time.